Hey everyone, and welcome back to Timeless. Today we're going to be taking a look at the green-black Turbo Belcher deck. I mentioned in the Sword and Storm video that after Chromox got added to the format, it's been a bit of a race to the bottom to try to find the fastest, most degenerate combo deck that's also a little bit resilient against interaction that people are playing in the format right now. And this is the deck that is all in on Charbelcher and doing it as quickly as possible. So this looks like a pile of cards at first when you look at it. And I even tried to organize it, put the MDFCs all in one pile. So all the mana sources are here and it still looks like a pile. But one of the things you'll notice is that we do have a large pile of 4-drops here. This is a Beseech the Mirror deck, and that we are built primarily to abuse this card. So we can pretty frequently Dark Ritual into Beseech the Mirror. With a Crone Mox, we could do that on turn 1. And depending on what's in our hand, we could Beseech for a win. One of the main cards this deck is looking to abuse is Channel, one of the restricted cards in the format. So frequently you are beseeching for a channel or just DTing for a channel and casting it for double green. And then once you have channel mana, you can play and activate a Charbelcher all in one turn, or you could play a Karn, grab the Charbelcher out of your sideboard, play and activate. It does cost 11 life here, but that is life that you usually have when you're doing this on turn 2. We are playing the 7 colorless payoffs here, so it actually is pretty consistent. There are a couple of other common lines you could take, like for example, if you don't have the life to pay for channel, you could beseech for this Iron Crag feat over here. And this will get you 7 mana, which is enough to play and activate a Belcher all in one turn. You could also beseech for Culling Ritual when you are up against aggro, so this deck actually does do pretty well. And on top of that, we do have a little bit of interaction for the format. We have some Pact of Negation, Veil of Summer, and we have extra copies of these things in the sideboard. And yeah, this is a deck that wins off the back of Pact of Negation. This is a deck where I've won in response to my own Pact of Negation trigger in my upkeep. This is a deck where I've even paid for my Pact of Negation trigger once using Wizard's Rockets to filter mana. So outside of the busted stuff, there's another couple of cards to make the deck click. We could probably move Leyline to Sanctity into the free pile here. So we have a bunch of free and really cheap spells to act as Beseech the Mirror fodder, and a lot of these things can just cycle and draw a card. Wizard's Rockets is really cool because it can also fix our mana, allowing us to have the green for channel or the triple black for Beseech the Mirror when needed. And we got 4 copies of Assemble of the team and a copy of Demonic Tutor, really tying the room together as our tutors. And that's about it for the main deck. This is an all-in deck. We are trying to present a Belcher. We are hopefully going to do it on turn 2 every single game, if if the mulligans permit it, right? You can also, of course, win turn 1 in multiple ways. Like I said, you could do a turn 1 Beseech. You could also just have channel one of these payoffs, a green mana, and a Chrome Mox in your hand as another alternate turn 1. It happens pretty often with this deck to the point where if you do decide to grind this on ladder, you're going to stop screenshotting those turn 1s because it happens. But at the end of the day, it's a slot machine deck. This is very last cannon. If your opponent plays a Commandeer, you are just stone cold dead to that card, unfortunately. So you can be interacted with, and if you're not fast enough, your opponent is just going to hold up mana drain for the rest of the game, and you're also not going to be able to do things. But if you love these degen decks, you love going fast, this is the deck for you. Let's talk about the sideboard construction really quick. So we have about half of it dedicated to the Karn board. I would say this top half here is the Karn board. We have a Haywire Mite to fetch up for Artifact Enchantment Heat, because a lot of the frequent cards that they're going to use to disrupt your Charbelcher is either something like Deafening Silence to slow you down, or a Pithing Needle on the Charbelcher, and this can blow up both. We have our own Pithing Needle to name our opponent's combos, Vexing Bauble for when we were playing against things like Show and Tell, a Liquid Metal Coating to grab off of Karn in the occasional really slow games, Goblin Charbelcher as the extra copy to win the game with. Sky Sovereign, this is a card that you will tutor up sometimes. It's funny because when this deck was new, I was getting mirror matches a lot. I kept like queuing into Tommy and some of the other guys playing it on the ladder, and being able to tutor for a creature to attack and block with, because you can crew this, quote unquote, crew it with Karn. You can uptick Karn targeting the boat, and it becomes a 5/5 flyer with that 3 damage ability, right? So it can close out games. And also attack and kill your opponent's card. It's a funny meta call kind of card. A Cityscape Leveler, which is another thing that you can grab if you have channel mana. So like let's say you have channel mana and you could do like Karn grab Charbelcher out of your sideboard, but your opponent slapped down a Leyline to Sanctity. You could just grab the Leveler instead with Karn and put an 8/8 into play and blow up their protection. As for things that aren't part of the Karn board, we have extra Pact of Negation and Veil of Summer for when you are against decks that are going to try and interact with you. We have a Vexing Bauble so that after you sideboard against something like Show and Tell, you can have like one main, one side, so that you can like Demonic Tutor for this one, and you can Karn for this one. Assassin's Trophy is a catch-all removal spell for any heat pieces or your opponent's combo pieces. Disruptor Flute to name your opponent's combo pieces. One copy of Grief as a beseech target, and two copies of Force of Vigor, which are very, very strong ways to deal with your opponent's sideboard cards. That's about it for the deck. Let's get to the gameplay. All right, game one. We're going to be up against Godoy on the play. What we got here? We have a lane of Sanctity to protect us. We have a Chrome Box for a little bit of fast mana, but we don't have a ridiculously fast payoff, right? We can't put a Belcher into play turn 2 or even turn 3. So I'm going to go ahead and mulligan this because we can do better. All right, what about this one? We do have the Charbelcher in our hand. Pact of Negation to protect it. We don't have the mana sources for it, though. We can put it into play on, like, turn 3 using a Chrome Mox, and we'd have to draw another land, but that's not quite good enough, so let's mulligan one more time. Okay, here's a hand. Unfortunately, with this one, we're going to have to rely on drawing more mana sources, but this is going to be better. At a certain point, when you get to about 5 cards, you don't want to mulligan too deep. So we'll put the Leyline of Sanctity into place so that we don't get disrupted here. And we just need to draw another mana source so that we can Dark Ritual and put out the Charbelcher. And if we draw another mana source, we will be able to assemble the team as well. It could be any mana source, including Chrome Mox. So my opponent's on Affinity. Occasionally, Affinity gamers will main deck Commandeer or Subtlety. But this hand doesn't lose to Subtlety, in fact. Subtlety is creatures and planeswalkers, so Subtlety is very good against, like, the Sorin combo. But it's not necessarily good against our deck. It's good against our Karn hands, of course, but not against this one. Really just waiting for my opponent to tap out. But the thing is, they know we're on an unfair deck, so they are probably going to keep up blue mana for the rest of the game. So it may be a while until we're able to actually get a win here, unfortunately. Like, let's say they have Metallic Rebuke up here. They could rebuke my Ritual, and then I'm, again, just sitting here kind of spinning my wheels. Flare Denial, that's an unfortunate one. So I would love to draw the mana source now. There we go. All right, we're going to try to jam, because I know this free counterspell is coming. Dark Ritual, we're going to try to put the Belcher into play. And either it works or it doesn't, right? Metallic Rebuke is going to come through. We do have chances to win after this, but it's very unlikely. Yeah, they have a second flare too. Okay. But since we have assembled the team and the mana for it, I'm just going to stick around for another couple of turns. But in this situation, we're very unlikely to win the game. Yeah, they have another card to pitch here. This might just even get countered. My opponent might aggressively counter my tutor, seeing that I'm just stuck on 2 lands. They let it go through, which is smart. You're not really supposed to counterspell tutors. You're supposed to counterspell the payoffs. So do I want another Dark Ritual, or do I want a permanent mana source? Probably want a permanent mana source here. And then I'll try to play Culling Ritual and then Karn on 2 subsequent turns. Yeah, I might just grab, like, green-black mana here. So next turn we have access to 4 mana, guaranteed. Alright, wow, main deck Needle. Okay. Makes sense, because they're playing, like, this Inventor's Fair package. Where they can, search up for whatever artifact. Yeah, and they can name Belcher. The good news is that I am, like, holding Culling Ritual, right? No, so I can nuke their board and make a bunch of mana sometime soon. I'll go ahead and, like, Chrome Mox this. Just so I don't have to pay 3 life. Now, the issue is we only get to resolve one of these. Right? If this gets counterspelled, then we're going to have trouble winning the game. If Karn gets counterspelled, then we don't have an immediate way to win the game anyway. We could always do something like Karn grabs Sky Sovereign out of the sideboard or something like that. Also, Karn is just very strong against my opponent's artifacts. Karn will get attacked, though, is the only issue. I'm just a little conflicted on what to do, because one of these is going to get countered, one of these is going to get jammed next turn. We're just deciding which is better for me trying to win the game here. I guess sticking a Karn on this board would be good for winning the game, especially against an Affinity deck. So we're going to see if my opponent counters me here. They should. Also, I should not have imprinted, I think, because I'm threatening to blow up my own Chrome Mox here. You know? It would have given me 4 mana to immediately follow up with Karn, which would have been cool. So we're hoping my opponent doesn't draw more permission here. Again, we're really just hoping. And then when we play Karn, I might just like plus him, targeting lands to start out. Ooh, that's a lot of pressure, unfortunately. I get to flip their Tameo. Alright, well, there's a good chance that Karn doesn't resolve, and then we could just concede and get out of here. Especially with them drawing a zillion cards. Alright, let's see if this Karn resolves. If it doesn't, we'll just go to next game. Okay, it does. The problem is, I think we just die to attacks. And the unfortunate part is they have... I think we just lose, right? Unfortunately. Because they've needled my Belcher. I can't just get a Belcher and play it. And they also have Kappa Cannoneer in play. I could get a Haywire Might. Try to chump block the Cannoneer, destroy the Needle. But I think we're going to get attacked for 13 this turn. Because my opponent can just play a bunch of artifact spells. Make this thing huge. Especially if they get back like Flare Denial. We'll go ahead and concede this. Because if they don't have lethal this turn, they'll just counterspell me next turn. Alright. So against Affinity Gaming, we definitely do want to be able to fight back against their blue spells with Veil of Summer. Force of Vigor and Assassin's Trophies are going to be like really, really strong. Culling Ritual is going to stay really strong. A lot of these cards are really strong. So the cuts are less obvious. When the cuts are less obvious, often you could just like cut some of your junky artifacts. You don't want to go too low on them, of course. We could do something more like this. Even cut Pact of Negation, because maybe Pact of Negation is getting a bit too cute against this particular deck. But I do really like Pact of Negation. It is kind of necessary to have like Veil of Summer or Pact of Negation in your hand when you're trying to win. It's just, what do we do? We could probably cut the ley lines, actually. Let's put our other junky artifacts back in then. The Wizard's Rockets back. We are a little low on Beseech fodder if we don't have these ley lines. But I think I prefer having access to the extra Pact of Negations, extra Veil of Summers, because my opponent is definitely going to be packing Subtlety, Commandeer, etc. in the sideboard. Alright, what we got here? We have... Oh, his hand is so close, right? We only got the 1 mana, but we are ready to channel if we draw a green source. That seems good to me. And if we draw any mana source, we could just beseech away this bauble. However, because I really do want to draw the mana source, I am going to cycle my bauble anyway. I'll be disciplined and do it on my opponent's upkeep. This is the technically correct way to do it. And the reason you do it that way is so that you draw the card on your turn, just in case your opponent has like this card or an Orcish Bowmasters. Of course, they're a mono blue Affinity deck, so they're not going to have a lot of the cards that you usually play around by doing that, but it's the disciplined play to get into the habit of doing. So we're going to draw 2 cards here. 1, 2. Okay. So we did not draw the mana. We didn't draw the mana that we wanted. We wanted green mana. And we also have Veil Summer. Okay. So what do we want to do here? We can just try to like jam a card. That's an option. We can pass the turn. And just like Veil of Summer on their end step, draw another card, try to find a green source. Or just try to find a 3rd mana so that we could do something like Dark Ritual into Karn with Veil of Summer backup. So I usually don't like being patient in this deck, especially against a blue deck, but let's be patient. Let's see if we can hit that 3rd land drop or just like another Dark Ritual. And I think on my opponent's end step, I'm just going to cycle one of these Veil of Summers because I'm not going to have the mana for 2 of them. I think Landlore? So they're tapped out. They would need a free counter spell at this point. I'm just going to draw a card real quick. Okay, another Dark Ritual. Fantastic. So we can go Ritual, Ritual with Veil of Summer backup. Oh, and there's Channel. Okay. So we don't have enough green mana to channel and Veil of Summer, so would we rather just jam a channel and hope it resolves, or go Ritual Ritual Karn? If we go Ritual Ritual Karn, what happens? We probably just grab Belcher and then we channel for Belcher next turn? Yeah, that seems fine to me. And Veil of Summer will get the counter spell out of my opponent's hand. So we're going to go Ritual. Ritual. Karn. And then here comes the free counter spell, right? Yes, sir, that is a Flare of Denial. I will say no thank you. I do not want to be countered today, and if they have second Flare, then well played, opponent. Alright, sweet. Karn resolves. So we can grab the Belcher here. And we're going to try to get a channel win next turn. If we had one more green mana, then, you know, we could have tried to do channel this turn and win, of course. It's just that we have this one black source here. It's a little tough when you're stuck with an MDFC mana base to support, you know, triple black and double green mana costs. Alright, sweet. So either it resolves or it doesn't, right, guys? I don't think there's any more nuance to this turn. It resolves. Cool. Alright, sweet. So we did manage to beat the blue deck at least once. Let's see if we could do it again. I like the sideboard plan. I think we got it. I think we got it locked in. That Assassin's Trophy we drew at the end is kind of a card. Would I rather have a random ley line or solar transformer for Beseech fodder? Maybe. Give me that. Actually, I'm gonna be on the draw, so we're not gonna struggle as much with mana sources. I don't think I need another mana rock in my deck. Being on the play versus on the draw affects your math a little bit. Like, you know, in that game, how we started on land, and I was like, wow, I really hope we draw a land. When you're on the draw, you draw out of those situations slightly more often because you draw an extra card on your first turn, right? All right, what we got here? We have a hand. We got double packed. And just not quite enough mana to actually do anything with double packed, so we're going to mulligan. Channel hand alert. All right. This is one of the hands of all time. We only have one mana source, but like... Come on, guys. It's a hand. I'm going to, like, put back the Dark Ritual, probably. And we're going to try to channel. And then we're going to, like, turn one Shock and Wizard's Rockets. Also, we could do something like a Tempo Force of Vigor here. Like, if my opponent starts with a Chrome Mox and an Artifact land, we just blow it up. Or we just, like, destroy both their mana. I'm going to let them spend the card in hand to get the mana here. So my opponent had this opener to start with. Landlord Navigator. Sure. It sucks because they get, like, the Magpie into play. Tormod's Crypt, that card does not affect me. Alright, cool. I am going to go ahead and just blow both of these up. It's all of their mana. And I have to pitch the tutor. I wanted to keep that tutor or whatever. So we're looking to draw another green source and turn 2 channel. What's cool about Wizard's Rockets is I can filter our channel mana into another color so we can cast Meonic Tutor, but, you know, you could also just be lucky like me and draw your Charbelcher so that you don't have to worry about tutoring. So if we draw another mana source, we win here. Seems like my opponent has like a flare or something. Get with that pause that they got. Though actually it's probably the Tormod's Crypt pause, right? My opponent drew mana during drawing out of this situation, but we definitely slowed them down a lot. Alright. How all in do we want to be, guys? Are we all in? So what we could do, Chrome Mox, imprint Demonic Tutor, filter to green mana. He is all in. There is no other way around it. I think we have to be all in because my opponent is going to be drawing 2 cards a turn. They are eventually going to draw a counterspell, and they're least likely to have it this turn when they only have 2 cards in hand. They are getting priority, but it's Tormod's Crypt. Dude, he is all in, baby. All right, let's manually tap this just so we don't get screwed over. All right, add green, please. Draw me a card. All right, that's useless. Actually, it's useful to hard cast the Belcher next turn if this gets countered. Never mind. I take that back. Okay, we got rebuked, but like we can still cast our Belcher next turn. There's hope. The very lucky draw here. All that we would need to do is draw a third mana source, and of course dodge a second counter spell. My opponent's drawing 2 cards per turn, so they definitely could find more. I'm gonna get another Magpie down for 3 cards per turn. Dark Ritual, please. We are not gonna Culling Ritual. Because it would blow up my own fast mana. Okay, awesome. We just have to draw a Mana Source, guys. Mana Source, Dark Ritual, Chrome Mox, MDFC. They're all the mana sources in our deck are turned on right now. My opponent's doing 4 damage per turn, so we have 2 turns to draw it. Notably, if we draw an MDFC, we have to draw it this turn. Otherwise, it's going to be tapped and a little late. My opponent could, of course, play a Pithing Needle effect and name the Belcher, and then we are cooked, or sink it into the stupor, as the kids say. All right, I think that's going to be GG. Let's just go ahead and play it out, because I think there's a tiny chance if this Culling Ritual resolves. Like, we draw Dark Ritual, resolve Culling Ritual, add a zillion mana off of all these maps, we might be able to win still. It's a pretty narrow victory, and my opponent would have to have no permission. All right, yep, that will go ahead and be it. All right, so that game 1 shows off some of the weaknesses of this deck. I mentioned this will struggle against cards like Commandeer and other free permission, and my opponent is the deck that is playing 4 Flare of Denials. They might even be playing all 4 in the main deck, right? Oh, we didn't see Flare this game. It was last game we saw Flare, but we did manage to beat it with Veil of Summer. So it is possible to take games off of these decks. However, something like Mono Blue Affinity is going to be your worst matchup when you're playing this deck. Mono Blue Affinity and like the new builds of Esper Tempo that have like main deck subtlety are really tough. All right, game 2 with Green Black Belcher. We're against Razekar. We are going to be on the play, and we do have the ability to just present a turn 1 Belcher. We can't activate the Belcher until turn 3, because we would have to just naturally make our land drops, but this is still more than good enough to keep. I think we're just going to go ahead and slam the Belcher into play, because game 1, discard is very common as interaction from opponents, but exile removal that hits the Belcher, such as Static Prison, is pretty rare. I think Static Prison is pretty much the only one that could really mess us up. So we're just going to pay 3 life. Rit Belcher. And my opponent has precisely 2 turns to answer the Belcher or win the game. Are we going to get a concede before you play a land? Basic Plains Soul Warden. All right. Let's go ahead and just play our tap lands. So if they have white removal or enchantment removal that hits the Belcher, good for them. If not, we will win on our next upkeep. Or not on our upkeep. You have to play a land, dingus. Look at you trying to sound smart in your video. Alright, standard all-star Rite of Oblivion has come through, and it has taken out our Belcher. Alright, we can definitely put together another win, though. That's a channel. That's a great card to see, but we don't have a payoff. So I think we could just grab another Belcher here, and then we could just play it on turn 4, activate it on turn 5. My opponent would have to have another answer. They could have Rite of Oblivion, right? If they play another land, they could flashback the Rite. So would it be correct to grab something else? I think we can still just grab the Belcher, and then we could do something like Beseech for a channel, or fast mana if we need to get the Belcher out. Yeah, let's take the Belcher here. Play this. Just trying to think about how to maximize my chance of winning here. Alright, sweet. So my opponent has played a card. Note that they do have Rite of Oblivion available here, right? So if we were to play the Belcher out and they hit their land drop, they can just exile it. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we are just going to pass the turn. And I'm thinking about whether or not I should be cycling this Bobble, because the unfortunate thing is that we don't quite have the mana for Beseech the Mirror. We drew 2 green sources. I would love to be able to Beseech for a Channel or an Iron Crag feat. Right. My opponent's slamming a Heliod. You got it. Okay, do I want to cycle more often than not? I think we want to cycle, because we could just cast Beseech without Bargain. Yeah, okay. So we're going to cast Beseech without Bargain here. At that point, we can grab Channel, and then we could just channel out the Belcher, or we could even just grab Dark Ritual so that we could play and activate the Belcher in one turn. Is there a better line than that? I don't think so. So pay life here. Grab Dark Ritual. I don't think my opponent can deal 7 to us. Dark Ritual? Right, that would be enough mana. Yeah. Do not get to cast that for free. It just goes to our hand. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 lands from our, or 4 mana from our lands, and then we use the 5th land plus Dark Ritual to pay for the Belcher activation. Alright, sweet. Yep, let's go ahead and do the thing. Alright, sweet. So my opponent is on White Weenies kind of deck. They could be playing Black Interaction. We only saw this one black removal, so but they definitely could be playing Thoughtseize and such. So do I want Force of Vigor and Assassin's Trophy as well? We don't really need the packs, I think. Veil of Summer also don't need it as much, especially as they could be running discard. I don't think they would be running that much. I am a fan of keeping the rest of the stuff in. Like Culling Ritual definitely stays in. Iron Crack Feed stays in. These 2 cards always like stay in versus fair decks, but you can cut them versus unfair decks. These are good when your opponent's playing cheap stuff and pressuring your life total, right? So we could just bring in like the Trophy and a Force of Vigor as like a catch-all removal spells for our opponent. We could bring in another Force. Force, is it Destroy or Exile? I can never remember. Just Destroy, so it doesn't like deal with something like Heliod, which we saw. So maybe the 1 Force is correct. You know, you don't want to over sideboard, especially when you're playing against like a more casual off-meta deck. All right, so we have a slow hand, but I think we're going to keep it just because it's a consistent one. We do have this sideboard card that we did sideboard in case they are playing something to stop our plan. I don't know if they are going to have it in their sideboard, but they definitely could have a Pithing Needle or something that we would want to blow up. So we could just take our time, tutor on turn 2, and then on turn 3 we have Dark Ritual to do something with whatever card we grabbed off of the tutor. I think that sounds good enough. I think that will win most games versus this deck. You want to keep in mind your opponent's deck when you're mulliganing. You want to say, do I have to win on turn 1 or turn 2, or do I have the luxury of taking a little bit of time? And this is one of the times you have luxury of taking time. And that's not to dismiss my opponent for playing a casual deck. It's any deck that's not necessarily interacting with you. So if you have a Leyline of Sanctity and you're playing against a Balemerc deck, they can't touch you. Oh, they're playing Demonic Tutor, of course. So they could definitely grab a sideboard card if they have one. But yeah, like Balemerc is a really good example. Those mid-range decks are very strong, but if you hide behind a Leyline of Sanctity, they literally can't touch you. So you can wait until you have 1 HP to win the game. We're going to do a similar thing against them. Ah, there's my Leyline. So we might get Thoughtseized here, but I think we're still willing to tutor. What we got here? Demonic Tutor. That's a little better. So we can grab Demonic Tutor and tutor again. Yeah, I like grabbing Demonic Tutor, because really we need A plus B to win the game. There's no Belcher here. If there was a Belcher, I would probably just like grab it and like Dark Ritual slam it next turn. So if I grab the Demonic Tutor, my following turn will probably be looking at what I draw and then Demonic Tutoring for something to go with it. Either a payoff or fast mana, right? Or I could grab Karn. I could just slam the Karn. Or Karn minus grab a Haywire Might, some other 1-drop that I could play. Karn minus grab the Boat. Karn minus grab the Belcher. There's a lot of things we could do. Actually, I'm talking myself into Karn. I think grabbing Demonic Tutor is just going a little too slow and giving my opponents opportunities to get back into the game. Alright, my opponent's just going to play a cool Vampire. Are we overthinking this game? Maybe, just a little bit. Sometimes I overthink. Sometimes I think, but then sometimes I forget. Wise words said by an intelligent man. All right, I'm gonna Karn and grab Belcher here. And then next turn we can minus Karn and grab something else, and whatever we grab will be contextual. We do have the mana to play Belcher, but we won't have the mana to play and activate, so we might want to play around onboard removal, which is what beat us last turn. But love to find a way to play and activate. And what else is in our Carnor that we can get, other than the boat? We don't have time for liquid metal shenanigans, really. So we can grab a Haywire Mite or Cityscape Leveler. We're way too far off in terms of mana. To attack down Karn here, sure. What's the activated on this? 4 mana? Okay. Ah, Dark Ritual. Okay, so we just win. Underwhelming after all that. But yeah, we can go ahead, pay. Chromux. We're going to have 7 mana again, so I don't think my opponent is going to be able to interact with this. But like I said, against a deck like this, you wait until you are 100% safe to play Belcher and win on the same turn. And it's not just my opponent was playing like a more casual off-meta deck. This can work versus Baelmerk, it can work versus Energy, it can work versus a deck that doesn't necessarily have that blue permission in it. We have been desparked, ladies and gentlemen, but we did win the game. Heartbreak game 3. We're going to be on the play against Yakov. What are we looking at here? We're looking at 2 lands and a Demonic Tutor. That is probably worth keeping. We would want a Demonic Tutor for the channel here. And yeah, this is actually great. We're looking at a turn 3 win unless my opponent is able to interact with us or lower our life total significantly in the first 2 turns, but we're on the play here, so probably not. All right, let's dump both our ley lines into play. I did think briefly about holding one of the ley lines for like a Chrome Mox, but with this hand, if it doesn't get interrupted, we're going to have a win on turn 3 deterministically. All right, opponent is also doing some Chrome Mox shenanigans here. All right, and it is going to be a pass back to me. You got it, buddy. I'm going to go ahead and Demonic Tutor here. There's arguments to maybe wait and have Veil of Summer back up. But the wisdom is counter the tutor target, not the tutor. So hopefully they let this resolve, and the next turn we get to untap with 3 green mana so that we can channel for a Karn for a win. Right, I wonder what my opponent's up to. What are you trying to play? Like, just proactive scam, midrange, whatever. Channel. I'm going to be careful to not add green mana here, or not use the green mana to cast my Belcher here. This is my cool Veil of Summer. I belch you. Alright, sweet. I have no clue what my opponent is playing. Yeah, not a dang clue, right? All that they showed us is this MDFC, which is very common in like any sort of a black deck. A basic Swamp and a Bloodstained Mire. Like, I don't know. I'm assuming like a fair mid-range deck, but usually fair mid-range decks don't play Chrome Mox unless they are trying to be degenerate fast, like the Baelmerk deck. So it could be just a Baelmerk deck that had a weird draw. Or maybe they had like a Juggernaut Peddler Grief Opener and I completely negated it with Sanctity. We probably want Veil of Summer over Pact of Negation against a heavy black deck. But what we really want are these Force of Figures. Questioning whether or not we need the Culling Rituals. I'm going to say no if they didn't present any aggro creatures there. We can cut a mana source when we're on the draw. I kind of want to bring in this Trophy as well. Trophy is a nice catch-all removal spell for when you don't know what you're playing against. But I actually I don't know what I'm playing against. Guys, what is this? Yeah, we'll do 1 Trophy over like 1 Bauble, right? And play this. All right, what we got here? We have more ley lines. Love ley lines here. But we don't have mana. Mulligan. All right, we have mana. We have a turn 2 Belcher, turn 3 activate. Does this win? Well, I don't know. Probably. Maybe we should send back one of these Chrome Moxes, because I don't know if we can afford all of that card disadvantage. Yeah, to make this hand a bit more resilient, we're gonna set a Chrome box back here so that if we get Thoughtseize, they take Belcher, we still have our Assemble the Team. It's very likely that they Thoughtseize us after showing us black sources. Yeah, we're gonna get griefed here. So let's see what my opponent is actually up to, because I have no clue. If they're a really degenerate deck, we could have maybe kept that first hand that just had the ley lines and rode the ley lines to victory. They did take our Belcher payoff, which makes sense. And they're going to reanimate him. And that's not great. Wonder if they're going to take a tutor. They take our fast mana. Sure. Right. Put this tapped. So next turn, we're going to tutor. Turn after, we're going to tutor. And then hopefully we have Assemble to win. Alright, my opponent was all in on that Grief action. I do not blame them for keeping that hand. Against Belcher, I would also keep like an all-in on Grief kind of hand. So we can Assemble for anything. We didn't find our Belcher, but what we could do is keep Dark Ritual and like try to do Dark Ritual with Belcher in the same turn. That seems reasonable to me. Yeah, I think we take Dark Ritual. We also take DT to get anything out of our deck. Like take DT and then try to channel. But our life total is under pressure. We're going to have to probably bolt in a land at some point, so we probably don't have time for life total shenanigans. Right, there's a second land source for our opponent. If they reanimate this troll, it would kill me. Just saying, if that's it, yeah. Reanimate Troll is generally not good in Timeless right now, but it's very good against unfair decks like mine. Because it puts me on a real clock. Alright, gamers. Gamettes. We could Assassin's Trophy the Troll, actually, to buy a bit more time. I'm actually kind of a fan of that. It gives them mana. That's what sucks, though. If we Assassin's Trophy the Troll, we're going to get 8 HP. We're going to untap, we're going to be able to assemble. And then we have to win the turn after, but I think we can with this Beseech. I think we're very likely to win. I think I just need another turn or two, so I'm going to hit this Troll with Trophy. Right, because if I assemble now, am I guaranteed to win next turn? No, and I might need to pay 3 life. So I'm going to Trophy this Troll. Maybe I'm wrong giving my opponent an untap step here. I hate that this gives them untapped mana, too. If they had like a 4-drop, I can just play it. Oh, so they're a mono black. They're just playing fetches to grab like Surveil lands or whatever. Shieldred? Nah, just fair Necro. Okay, cool. Mono black midrange is something I haven't seen in a while. It's something I used to love playing. So maybe I'll try it out after the tournament. Because I definitely think you can upgrade a fair black deck with Chrome Mox. The thing is, my opponent has drawn a lot of cards. So we are going to try to kill them. This is where somebody is going to put in the YouTube comments, see, this is why you should play one copy of Tendrils of Agony in your deck for situations like this, and think they sound smart. It's 4 mana for Tendrils, it's 4 mana for Beseech. It's the same amount of mana, it's not going to save me mana. And it only matters for my opponent Necros to 1. Anyway, it's fine. It's not worth the deck slot. I know there are situations where something like a Tendrils could be a better kill, right? Because we could just draw it, Dark Ritual into it, and kill and not need 7 mana. But it's generally not worth the slot. Every slot in this deck is very valuable. Every slot is occupied for a reason. Every slot contributes to the plan. So to have a card that doesn't contribute to the plan most of the time, that's really not good enough. All right, we saw some Bilmerks get discarded, which is kind of what we were expecting. Okay, so we can Beseech. Can I win though? Can't win, right? Damn, I still can't win. Yeah, this is unlucky. I still can't win. I can assemble for a Belcher, and then we can win next turn, right? Because if I assemble, find a Belcher, we can Beseech for Iron Crag Feet, and that's a win. I don't have anything random in my deck that does 1 damage, right? Yeah. Or anything I could Beseech for? That would just ping them? No, unfortunately. We could Beseech for Karn. Beseech for Karn. Grab like a Haywire Might. Does 1 damage. Which is really funny. But I think we're going to do the thing I said before. We're going to grab the Belcher here. And then next turn we Dark Ritual, play Chrome Mox without imprinting it, beseech away the Chrome Mox. That will grant Iron Crag Feet, so that's 7 mana for our Charbelcher activation. If my opponent's not interacting with me here, I still win, which is fantastic. Alright, my opponent is going with a Giga Brain play. They are marching their own grief so that they can draw 9 more cards to interact with me. I really like that. Oh, actually, never mind. They're drawing it to kill me. I didn't even realize. Nice. That's a kill. That's sweet from my opponent. I was not expecting that at all. It's the first time I've seen someone march their own creature for a Sorin kill. That was awesome. I was wondering why they were doing it in combat step. It's weird timing. Alright, awesome. So my opponent is on mono black midrange. Does that change how I sideboarded? No, I still probably want the trophy to deal with their random stuff. Still want all the veils. We definitely lean on Leyline because that's going to be our main way to stop them interacting with us. Alright, we're going to be on the play here. We do have the ability to channel on turn 2 if we draw a green source. So, looking great here, boys. And if we don't channel turn 2, we just slam Karn. So it's really not looking good for our opponent, like even if they thought sees us here. If they thought sees us, they would probably want to take the mana source that we don't play. I'm going to play the green one so that we can channel in case we draw another green one. Yeah, this is going to be a hell of a hand of grief. But if they have grief reanimate, they probably take this and, I don't know, channel. Maybe they take just both sources of fast mana, but then I could tutor for fast mana. It's tough. They kind of need to take 3 things. They need to take my fast mana and my actual mana to really stop my hand dead, or they could just take both payoffs, right? But then if they take both payoffs, I just assemble next turn. Really damned if you do, damned if you don't over here. They do take Dark Ritual. I feel like a second thought sees is coming, though. Yeah. Reanimate. So I'm curious if they're going to take Channel, and they're going to take both fast mana strategy. Nope, they're going to leave me with Channel. So green source is a 1-outer. We just win if we get it. All right, that's fine. Because now we can assemble the team for a green source. I think I'm fine to just take a green source. Like, just take the Disciple. I'm trying to poke a hole in my own plan mentally. What's better, right? Is there a better percentage play here? I don't think so. Just take your land drop. That's straightforward. Because, like, even if they thought sees me take Channel, I'm just happy to hit my land drop so that I can hardcast the Karn. Dark Ritual into Necro. Nice. Alright, so my opponent does get to draw a zillion cards here, but unfortunately I get to kill them. I will have exactly enough HP to kill them, by the way. I'm going to be at 1. If I'm doing the math correctly, which is very scary. We're going to need to get 10 mana off of our channel, and we're going to have to bolt down to 11. Thankfully, there's no 0 mana instant speed discard in this format that my opponent could possibly play on their end step here. So we should be good to win. Alright, sweet. Let's go ahead and play this. 11 life. We need 11 mana to do Karn activate Belcher, but we have 1 off of Fellmire here. So, holy moly, that was close. But we just barely pulled it off. Alright, let's grab our Belcher. And the good old 1 HP win. My opponent will do the honorable thing and take themselves out. I respect it. So overall, I think this is a pretty good showcase of the deck. We showed that it can absolutely win after getting discarded multiple times, which is crazy. It will struggle against blue decks that can leverage free or very cheap counter magic, as we saw in Game 1. And Game 2 is also really interesting to showcase because this deck doesn't really care what your opponent is doing. It does not matter if your opponent is playing a casual deck or if they're playing something that's really meta. Just as long as they don't kill you in the first 3 turns, you are doing roughly the same thing. You just have to play around their interaction, right? So this is a pretty interesting deck, and it is definitely one that you could use to get a high rank or use even at the tournament this weekend or at the metagame challenge, because you can absolutely string together 7 wins with it. It does have the raw power level. It is just a little bit glass cannon, and if a lot of people start getting smart and they start playing Affinity deck with free counter magic, or they start playing like the current builds of Esper Tempo, like I was talking to Chester, and he is playing main deck Subtlety in that deck, which is infuriating me, but it's absolutely a correct call. So if they're playing main deck Subtlety and Spell Pierce, they're going to have a really easy time shutting you down and then putting on a quick clock afterwards with something like a Psychic Frog to keep you from winning the game. But if you are mostly playing against other combo decks, Bailmerk decks, midrange decks, you're going to have a really good time playing this.